Hey, Legal Rebels, this is Tom Martin. I'm the founder of LawDroid, and this is my podcast, LawDroid Manifesto, where I interview legal innovators about how they do what they do. In this episode, I interview Bradley Collins, CEO and co-founder of LegalTechTalk, whose fresh perspective and relentless drive transformed a bold vision into one of the world's premier legal innovation events, bringing together thousands of changemakers to reimagine the future of law. Welcome to the LawDroid Manifesto podcast. I'm Tom Martin, your host. I'm thrilled today to have Bradley Collins on. He is the CEO and co-founder of LegalTechTalk, which has become, over the past 2 years, a gigantic event that is held in London and has people from all over the world attending it. And of course, the focus of it is legal tech and the lawyers who use it. So I'm excited to hear how it went, how he's built it over the past couple of years. It really took the world by storm, and it's a bit of a phenomenon, really. And I'm looking forward to hearing maybe some thoughts and plans for next year. Bradley, it's a pleasure to have you.
Hey, Tom. Thank you very much for having me. Really nice to chat. And enjoyed the virtual conference you put on not long ago as well. That was pretty cool.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's a small online LawDroid AI event earlier this year, but thank you very much for that. So it's just been a month, right, since you had the event?
Yes, it has, and it was amazing to see what we managed to pull off in the second year. We were always quite confident from even before launching the first one. We had a 5-year plan and how many people we wanted to attend, how many speakers, and very much hit the numbers. But I think what we maybe didn't anticipate was the sort of level of positive feeling and sentiment we would have from people in the room. It was really, really nice to see the sort of positivity and the vibe and the energy and curiosity from everyone. So I didn't foresee that happening quite as it did. But it's we had a bit of time to decompress now, and that's been pretty nice.
I'm glad you've had a little time. When we were off camera beforehand, you've done a little bit of travel. And by the way, you have a very interesting mark on your CV about taking some time off for travel, which I want to ask you about later.
Okay.
But yeah, it's always important for us to take care of ourselves. And the event that you put on, what you just made reference to, I think, is a thing that we don't anticipate, is like the 1 + 1 = 3. And the third part about it is just that sense of community that people get. And it really enriches everything. And that's why they come back.
I think you mentioned just before this session about the poet that we had who opened the show, and it wasn't a talk about tech; it was more about humanity and what good impact can we have on the world. And I think that's really what when I launched LegalTechTalk. So just a bit about the background. I've been in events for quite some time, in various different industries. In retail, I was part of a company that runs the biggest fintech show in the world and the biggest advertising show in the world. So I've seen sort of trends and transformation in a lot of different sectors, and it felt like legal might be the next sector to sort of go through an evolution, if you like. So it's like, okay, that sector is quite hot. Maybe we can create a good business there. But I think now that we've got going, I can really see a positive impact we can have, not just on the industry, but like what wider impact does that have on society and the world. And I think that's really the sort of big picture with all of this, like access to justice being one of those, the work-life balance of people in the industry. Like there's a lot of great stuff that we can create, and tech is a part of that. But I think the event's becoming a lot broader than just tech. Like a lot of it is about the people as well.
Absolutely. And I think that's an excellent teaser for what we're going to come back to. But as my audience knows, I love to go into people's origin stories. I think that it's a great way for them to connect with people as human beings and understand like the origin of what your motivations, what got you to this point. And so I'd like to go back to the beginning. Okay. You're currently in London right now, right?
I am indeed. I'm in a WeWork quite in the middle of London. Oh, you can just see some trees, but there's some buildings over there. But yes, in London.
Okay. Um, were you born there? Did you grow up in London, or where in the country did you grow up?
I was born in North London and lived most of my life in Hertfordshire. And then, yeah, my first job, or real job, should I say, was in London. So I've been here most of my life.
So people, especially Americans, can get a better sense of what that means, because I think when we think of London, it's just like, you know, the the part every tourist sees. But like,
Mhm.
what was the neighborhood like where you grew up?
So I was born into a council estate, so quite rough to be honest. In Edmonton, I don't know. You can Google it. It's not so nice area. Then went further up to Hertfordshire, which was a nice area again on a council estate. Which by the way I really enjoyed. I lots of young kids my age running around playing football and run outs and all sorts of games as a kid. So I wouldn't change anything. Um, but the wider surroundings, there's some really beautiful parts of Hertfordshire. It's a bit more of a countryside than central London and the city. And quite recently, I moved back to Hertfordshire, and I find myself in between London and Hertfordshire now. And I quite like that juxtaposition of country and peace and hearing birds tweeting, and then the hustle and bustle of London, which is quite a nice mix.
Well, that sounds a bit idyllic in a way that, you were still going out playing ball with your friends and other kids. Whereas it seems like now there's a lot more electronic intervention
Mm-hmm.
coming into play with younger people.
Yeah. I'm glad that I was born just before that. People still climbing trees, riding bikes, and I hope kids of today still get to do that kind of stuff.
Well, that's good stuff. I was wondering, like, your mom and dad, what did they do, and what were some of their influences on you early on?
So I didn't meet my dad till I was 16. So my mom and dad were very young when I was born. I think my dad was like 17 or something. So I didn't meet him for quite some time. My mom, she spent a lot of her years raising me as a single mom. She did a lot of sort of odd jobs, whatever she needed to do to get by when we were young. So we were a bit of a team. I would say she said I was quite a well behaved child. But she's done various things like cleaning jobs, like nothing fancy or extravagant, but she gets by. And yeah, part of my motivation for doing this is to be able to look after her in the later years, like she did me when I was young.
Well, I would think that she has a lot of grit and a lot of like stick to itness and heart, in what she does.
Hmm. Yeah, she did what she needed to do, and she gave me a lot of put a lot of her energy into me and love, and gave me confidence. So whilst there's a bit of some rocky roads, but I think that's all you need, right? And other people putting confidence in you, and I think coming from not a privileged background is a big motivation. When I had some other family members that looked after us, my dad's been quite successful. He's in property developing now, and knowing that you've got a dad that's done successful stuff, even though you hadn't met him at the time, all of this stuff, like as a kid, it sort of gives you real grit and motivation. And so I wouldn't change any of that, because I don't think I would have the same sort of level of energy, motivation, and drive as I do now.
100%. That makes us who we are. Was there anyone else that, like in your formative years that, set you in a direction or said something that kind of opened your mind to different possibilities? Was there anything like that? Maybe your
Um,
teacher or?
yeah, I think a couple. I mean, I had some family members that used to take me on holiday with my cousin when I was young, and for me, like they had a really fancy life, and I guess it's quite a relatively normal life. But that was nice to sort of see all the sort of good stuff that people could do. And I think a big influence in my life was also when I was about 11 or 12. I used to play tennis down the park with one of my friends. And every weekend we kept getting kicked off by this tennis club that was just being formed, and some old guy who was coaching some kids. And they're like, "Oh, the tennis club started now. You need to go." And after 6 weeks, every week kicking us off, it's like, maybe you should just join the club. My mum couldn't afford the tennis lessons, and so my cousin, the people that used to take me away, they paid for me in the first year. And after the first year, he never charged me again to play tennis and to coach me tennis, and eventually paid out of his own pocket for me to become a tennis coach. I became the club captain, became vice chairman of the club in time. And so, when you're that age and there's a lot of, I don't know, kids getting in trouble or whatever, I could have easily gone down the wrong path. And I think knowing I had to be up and at tennis at 10 a.m. every Saturday and Sunday, and had tennis matches and responsibilities, and had to make sure the team showed up on time and they weren't too hungover, when we were 16. And that kind of gave me some like leadership and real responsibility at a young age. And I think that has a huge sort of impact on me. And I didn't go to university. I got good grades. I got A's in maths. I'm quite smart in science on my subjects and sport. But I wouldn't have got my first job in the city without having that sort of badge, vice captain and chairman of a tennis club, ahead of people that went to uni, I think, as well. So I think, yeah, I was on another podcast. I referred to him as Mr. Miyagi for anyone that's seen Karate Kid. But I think, yeah, he had quite a big influence.
Early experiences like that with responsibility, and there's different personalities that would take to that experience, right? So like, if you were a different person, you might have just blown it off and moved on. But the fact that you took it, took it to heart, that you took on that responsibility, says something about you too. Like, you were kind of...
Well, he wouldn't have put me forward for any of that if he didn't see something. He's quite straight to the point. I mean, I remember some kid came in and their mum or dad was trying to get them lessons, and the guy wasn't paying attention. He was like, look, if you don't want to pay attention, I don't care how much your mom's going to pay me. I don't want their money. There's an exit door over there. There's an exit door over there. Which one do you want to leave by? So quite old school way of doing things. And it's a bit of like a Rocky Balboa tennis club. We built our own floodlights. We built our own clubhouse, in some rustic park. But it was cool. It's cool. The big clubs used to come over and we used to beat them quite consistently in time. So we were quite a high performing and ambitious club that started from scratch, which was really cool.
And you're still involved in tennis, right?
I play a little, not as much as I would like, or as much as I should, but it's definitely something I'd like to get back to, some competitive sport. I played tennis yesterday actually with my cousin. I won the first set, and we did a short second set, which he won, and he won't let me live that down.
And by the way, I'll point out to the audience that you actually won a couple of awards for mass. Like you got the junior and senior silver award for the UKMT, which is representing the top 2 to 3% of the country. In terms of...
You've done your research. You've gone far down my LinkedIn. But yeah, numbers was my thing. I was quite a cheeky chappy at school, and the teachers loved me and hated me at the same time. But I did maths and further maths, and in the early years, the teachers, they just saw me as this cheeky chappy kid, and every year in the first 3 years, I was in the second set out of 7 sets. So I was in one of the top echelons, and the first 3 years I got the highest mark in the class every year, and won some award thingy. I was in the top 1% or 2% of the country in maths apparently, and then moved up to the top set. Ended up taking further maths, which was just 7 people out of the whole school or the whole year that did that. And I kind of didn't fit in by personality. Probably it was kind of like the people that appeared to be a lot more intelligent than I. But yeah, I used to love numbers, and I think it bodes well when getting into business, the combination of someone being able to talk to people, being personable, but quickly having like logic and can solve things quite quickly. I think, yeah, it's a nice combination.
So with that background and being good in maths, which by the way, not everyone is, and certainly not everyone is in the top 2% by definition, they can't be. So like,
my co-founder wouldn't believe this. Yesterday I was sitting there in a board meeting. He's doing the Excel spreadsheets and numbers, and my eyes are going blurry. I'm like, wow. So my co-founder's way better than me at numbers now. I let him do all of that, but I can quickly like paint stories out of it and tell stories from it.
I want to come back to that storytelling. It's extremely important. But it sounds like, okay, with that background, with that talent, you wanted to go straight out and start working, and you went into some business development roles, right?
Yeah. So my first sort of career job, if you like, was in advertising. So a media company, Central Media. People in the legal industry might know this company actually because they own The Lawyer, which is quite established, running big awards and the magazines and different media activities that they do on a different portfolio than the marketing and creative portfolio. And I was selling adverts in a magazine, calling people up, saying, "Hey, we've got an issue. It's about whatever type of marketing, direct marketing. You should be advertising in this with your products. Here's a quarter page at the back, £250." And yeah, a lot of cold calling people, a lot of resilience. It was good fun. And then eventually it became a lot more strategic work and bigger advertising campaigns and doing events and webinars, roundtables. So I've been in the world that I'm in today for the last 15 or so years in one way or another, which has really helped get this going, and sort of understanding the mechanics of events. And we're basically our business model. We are a marketing platform or marketing agency that has access to the legal market. So I've stuck with that, but moved from industry to industry.
Well, let me step back for a moment because I'd like to understand, like, how did you get into that? I think you're talking about Centaur, right? Like, how did that how did that come about?
That's a good question. I think I told the story once before. Before this, I was working on a building site. I went on holiday. I must have been about 18 or something, and I come back from holiday, and the guy said, "What are you doing here?" So, "What do you mean? I'm back from holiday." It's like, "Oh, I thought you left." I was like, "No, I told you I was going for a holiday." It was like, "Oh, I've hired some other people now. Sorry." And I remember shaking his hand. I said, "Thank you." He said, "Why are you thanking me?" I said, "Oh, I'm going to go and get myself a proper job now." Not that being on a building site isn't. I was laboring, in case I said I'm getting offended by that. But for me, it wasn't for me. Like this world, it clearly wasn't for me. So then I spoke to my friend who was in this media world, and he introduced me to some recruiter. And I remember sat there in a room with like 10 other people about my age or a few years older. They've been to uni. This was straight from secondary school for me. And I got the job. And I'll take whatever I could get, to be honest. I thought sales was my thing. I like talking to people. I tried to do accounting with numbers, looking at a screen all day just wasn't for me as well. I quite quickly realized I like engaging with people and talking to people. So sales seemed to be quite a good option.
Just a couple of noteworthy things is that when you were at Centaur, you were runner-up for Salesperson of the Year in 2014, and then in 2015, you were actually the winner of that for Salesperson of the Year, right?
Yes. Yeah. The runner-up one was a bigger surprise for me. I had no idea. I was at the awards, we were all drinking wine, and they're shouting out about the awards. I didn't even know I was nominated for one, and all I heard was Bradley Collins. I was like, "What?" And then I was like, "Okay, I better win it next year. I need to try and win it." So actually, then that was like a big motivation for the next year. So I ended up doubling sales numbers, and I remember going up on stage with all the other winners of each sort of micro company within the big group. Became like the penultimate or final award. There's some celebrity host in front of 1,000 people in some fancy venue in London, and won, which was really nice. And then I went, as you noted earlier, I thought, okay, now's a good time to travel for a little bit and take some time.
That is next, but I wanted to think a little bit more about your success in business development, and I was curious, like the ability to talk with people, interact with people, like clearly be successful in being convincing and also building it as most likely like a win-win for everyone so that, like it feels like the right thing to do. Like, where does that come from? Is it a nature nurture kind of thing? Like, is it more nature in terms of your personality, you think, or is it something that you developed over time, or what are your thoughts about
I think
that?
it's a bit of both. I think if I'm going back to school days, I was a sort of guy that I didn't have a group of best friends. Like there was this group here that liked to play football. There's a group over there that were smoking behind the bike shed or whatever. There's a group over here that liked playing chess, and there's a group over here that did something else. And there was clearly defined groups of people, and I was the sort of person that would be a small part in every single group. So no matter, I learned to speak with like all walks of life, and then be a bit of a unintentionally a bit of a chameleon. My voice changes when I'm talking to an Australian. I'm a bit like this. I don't mean to do it, so I sort of blend in with people. So I'm quite natural, which I think has been developed over time in speaking to people. But learning to sell is definitely a trained skill. There's one thing, being able to talk naturally with people. There's another thing. Yeah, I read a lot of books. They've got The Secret, which is about like positive mentality, and you need some of that to be able to sell. There's another book called Go Givers, which is about giving without the expectation of receiving anything back in return. And I think it's a great mindset to have. If you help people out, like what goes around will come back around again. But you've got to have the intention or the mindset that you're not doing something nice to get something back in return. And that's a really, someone told me about that in my like second week of working. A client that I was trying to sell to recommended it. And that was a great book. And being able to understand people, ask the right questions, really listening is a really important skill. People like to talk, but we've got 2 ears, right? So I think that's for a reason. But it's a nurture is very important, I think. Nature will only get you so far.
So next, I want to ask you about that year. Like you built up this success at Centaur, and I want to ask you a little bit about how that happened, that you transitioned to basically you spent a year traveling the world, kind of like, and I'm going to date myself here, and you probably won't get this reference, but David Carradine, right, back in the day with Kung Fu, like just walked the earth, and that was his deal. Like that's what that TV show was about. Sorry to go off topic, but anyways, like you traveled the world for a year in 2016. How did that come about, and where did you go?
Winning the award, I was like, okay, my CV is okay now. What next? I worked another year there, by the way. I didn't just win the award and then like, okay, I'm leaving now. But I saved up for a year to go traveling. I was with my girlfriend at the time, who worked in a different company within the wider group. And her brother had just come back from traveling and told all these stories. I was like, I really want to do that. She was like, I really want to do that. So yeah, we started saving, and we quit and traveled for a year all over Asia, Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, sort of typical places. And we went to China and Japan, Malaysia, Indonesia, Australia, then to South America, all over South America, Mexico, Cuba, then North America, so California, New York, and Miami. So yeah, we did quite a bit. Iceland and back to London over a year, backpacking style. We had one nice hotel at the very beginning, and afterwards it was quite hostels and stuff. But yeah, it was nice to sort of experience lots of different cultures and yeah, create some stories, meet lots of different people. I think it's quite valuable actually for some people who see it as a risk with their career. I think, yeah, for me, it definitely added something when I came back to the real world. I couldn't wait at the end of it to get back to work, to be honest with you. I was ready to come back.
What do you think it did for you, like doing that traveling?
It was nice to experience and see the real world. I've been quite just seen a lot of the UK, not even a lot of the UK, just my town for much of my life. So being able to see the world, see how different people operate, people think they've got it bad here, but like you go to Vietnam and see kids on the street, they don't even have shoes on their feet and they've got smiles on their faces. So like it puts things into context, right? It's I think comparison is the thief of joy. People are like, oh, this person's got a nicer watch than me. And you see how people really live and they are seemingly happy and smiling. I think it gives you a lot of context. Yeah, just being able to understand different cultures and being able to relate with people more was a big sort of benefit from it as well.
Well, I completely agree with you. I think it's one of the luxuries of life, but also like a necessity too, because it does give us that bigger view and connects us together. There's this phenomenon that I noticed, like Richard Susskind does it from like more of an intellectual standpoint, but I also think that like there's a physical version of it. Like basically he has in his writing this thing where he zooms in on a particular issue, like really thinks it through. Mm-hmm. But then in the next page or so, he zooms out and then like puts it in the larger context of things. And I think the traveling thing is like a more like concrete, like physical manifestation of that, where like you in your everyday, right, are zoomed in on these things that seem to be so important. But then when you do the traveling, you get that ability to like zoom out and put things in larger context.
Definitely, yeah. And you don't realize it at the time. Yeah, it seems like a long time ago now. You give me the itch to do some more traveling, but we got some more work to do.
Yeah, well, this time we're doing a little time traveling. Uh, so with that, let's jump ahead to the step right before Legal Tech Talk, which is that you were working in insurance, but you were working in insurance within kind of like an event.
Yeah. So one step before that, I went to a FTSE 250 event and media company, Essential, which recently got acquired by Informa, which is the biggest or one of the biggest event groups in the world. And two of the events in the portfolio were Money 2020 and Cannes Lion, which Money 2020 is the biggest fintech show in the world. I tell people all the time that Snoop Dogg performed at their after party in Vegas. I heard stories that he did, and I'll go with it. But like these are like huge epic events, and you get the founders of Revolut and Monzo and the CEOs of the big banks and Cannes Lion, like people like Mark Zuckerberg and Bono from U2. Like they just had huge people. Google was sponsor the whole beach, and the biggest advertising agencies are all on yachts, and there's like 100,000 people perhaps all over Cannes. It's huge and epic events. So I got this sort of taste of these big mammoth events. I worked on a retail portfolio in the group. We did a little bit smaller events, but we had Jack Ma from Alibaba coming to speak at it, and the CEOs of the big retailers all around the world. Tommy Hilfiger himself was a speaker at one of the events. So been around these sort of very premium high level events as well. I won an award there as well. I was the salesperson of the year in that company across the group. So I have apparently I'm quite good at selling, or people like buying stuff from me, which is good. That was post traveling, and then my granddad, for many different reasons at the time, I was being urged to sort of start my own business. I was thinking about, do I start a marketing agency? What can I do? What are my skills? And then got approached by this insurance startup that you just mentioned. There were about 4 people on the team, maybe 5 at the time. They were 1 year in. A lot of young entrepreneurial people, which were backed by a chairman investor who was very entrepreneurial. And we grew that. So they did one pretty good, well, for the first year for very young people. When my current co-founder being one of them, did events in London, Hong Kong, and New York, all in the space of about 12 months, which was insane. None of them had ever done an event before. They all come straight from uni. And I was just like, these guys are insane. Like, how are they doing this? I was looking at the attendee list they were showing me, and they was having CEOs from these big insurance companies. So I was like, all right, I think I can add something here. I come with a commercial pedigree. They were missing someone like me. And we built that to become, which is now by far the biggest insurance ecosystem in the world. It's the biggest event in Europe. It's the biggest event in Asia. It's like, I think nearly 200,000 people following them on LinkedIn now. They had about 400,000 people signed up to their newsletter that they're publishing. That was just built super quick. We rode the COVID wave in that period as well, and transitioned into a digital media company and became even more profitable during that time. And yeah, that was a really crazy journey and intense, and learned a lot, good and bad. And so that was my next journey. I was the chief commercial officer of that business.
Well, it sounds to me like everything's coming together, right? Like in terms of where you are now, like you accumulated the skill sets from all of those different experiences, especially not just a skill set, but like a mindset or like an open-mindedness to seeing not only from your own motivation, but also seeing like these people just kind of started this thing by all like traditional, forms of viewing things might be like, well, they can't do this? Like, how are they just starting up and doing this? And to be able to take something like that on yourself.
Yeah, the mindset that they had, well, like nothing is impossible. Everything is possible. I came from like traditional event and media companies, where it's like, if you grow by 200 people, that's really good and great job. And okay, 5% growth, that's great. Not to say anything bad about previous companies, but it's like these are much more established. And And I think it came from the chairman of that company, a guy called Mads, with like, why can't you get 4,000 people? And then it wouldn't be, they've never done an event before. They don't know what's possible and what's not possible. But like in previous places I've been in, that would be wildly crazy. The mindset was like, okay, how do we make it happen? Not can it be done? It was just immediately, how do we do it? And for me, that was the biggest mindset shift. Like anything can be done if you just think. Like we work with people on the team and you're trying to, let's say, book certain big name speakers. Oh no, you can't get them. You'll have to pay them. I'm like, okay, let's see. And you look at the speaker lineup. We didn't pay anyone. If you can sell the story, and so anything is possible. Is what I learned there. It's a big flip of mindset.
And I think it's a great segue because then we come to 2 years ago, Legal Tech Talk. And so let me give you a bit of context, like kind of a zooming out thing, which is that, I mean, to be transparent with you, like when you came onto the scene with that mindset, it caught some people off guard, and some people that are more established in the industry were kind of like, who is this guy? What is he doing? Like you were doing things that, like in retrospect, and also obviously talking to you, and it makes perfect sense. What you do is you go into the space, you do the things you need to do to get out there, get the voice out there, get the message out there. And I think for some people that were used to like a more traditional way of doing it, that was offsetting for them at the beginning. Clearly it's worked, but there was that. I think that it's a good thing. Like we require, and certainly the legal industry requires being shaken up a little bit from time to time. I'm just curious, like to zoom back to that point in time for you, what was that like making that bet to go into legal of all things, knowing how lawyers are?
I didn't know how lawyers were, and I think that was I think that was for my own benefit. Otherwise, maybe you would have thought twice. No, but honestly, like I was quite naive to the legal industry, which I do think is a benefit. It was an uphill challenge, I would say, in the early days. What I learned was that like no legal industry, well, law firm wants to be the first to do something, but once you got some big names on board, no one wants to be the last to do something. It's the same we're seeing with like law firms adopting technology now. It took ages to get going, and now everybody's signing up with Harvey or Lagora or one of these big AI platforms now because everyone else is. You can't not do it. But it was a massive challenge, and we had to get some early believers, and I think we had some early non-believers, and as well, and people that were wishing us well from the beginning, and maybe some others that were like, that's these guys aren't serious. But I think everybody sees us as doing good now. I don't think there's anyone out there that thinks we're doing anything that's not benefiting the industry and the people in the industry. But it took a while to get there, and we probably caught a few people off guard in the early days, and I don't know if we trod on any toes in the early days, so sorry for anyone's toes that got trodden on. Didn't mean to, but we had to do what we had to do, right?
Well, I could tell you, I've had a similar experience with working within legal tech early on, like close to 10 years ago. Like people definitely had some negative reactions to that, and you just gotta do what you think is right. Do you like focus on what the vision that you have and that you're trying to bring to the world.
And people didn't see the vision early on, and it was just getting that vision out there to everyone that we could speak to, and speaking to everybody, and we got a lot of people that were like, this is awesome, like if you can pull this off, this would be great, like how can I help? And like those people now, like we don't forget it, and they help get us going, make introductions, and then it's you're running hard uphill on a treadmill at the beginning, and it's tough. But after a while, you sort of get to the top of the hill now, and you get that snowballing effect down the hill, which is I think where we're at now.
Yeah.
But you've got to be resilient, and you got to have thick skin, and keep going, positive attitude, and I think that's required in this space.
So you're a co-founder of LegalTechTalk. Who are the other two co-founders, right?
So Mikkel is my co-founder. I did a post about Jo Dixon today. We consider her a co-founder. She was the first person to join the team. She's now the chief commercial officer here, who's been with us since day one as well. So she can be the co-founder. And we have a non-exec chairman, Simon Middlebow, who joined us a few months after we got started. I reached out to him as a potential investor in the early days, and yeah, he ended up coming a little bit later on as well. And he's had leadership roles in a lot of big event groups and companies. He used to run Central Media back in the day, as an example. So we got some seasoned gray hair on the team, which I think is needed when you got me and my young co-founder. We're both young. Yeah, we got a great team now. It was like 10, 12, 14, and maybe about 15, 16, maybe even nearly 20 all in all, like involved, either full-time or freelance, part-time, or step in when they need to. So that's growing really quickly. We're sort of like teething issues now where the team's got to a certain size, which for us, it feels big. I've never run a company like this, even with just 12 people. So we're hiring some more. So it's like getting coherent again. Like at the beginning, it was just three of us, right? It's so easy. You just talk to each other, and we were wearing lots of hats. So we're just sort of reorganizing now post event as we look to scale and grow some more over the next year.
Yeah, it's harder than you think. Like when you grow, like everyone who, like the people that you're growing to, that you're adding on, like they have to have roles that actually serve a function, and then figuring out how that works is itself another job.
Yeah. I don't envy like these companies that go from 0 to 500 people. I have no idea how they do that. Like, hats off to them.
Yeah, I'd like to talk to Jack Newton, for example, about how he grew it to over 1,000. I think he's like 1,500 people now. It's just crazy that he has that capacity and vision for that. Tell me a little bit about like the mission and the what you're trying to achieve with LegalTechTalk.
So our goal as a company, we want this event to become the biggest legal, not just legal tech, but legal event in the world. Tech is a big part of it, but really people are like, why do you want to be big? And it's like, I feel like we can create a bigger impact, and everybody who attends gets more value. And there's a much bigger impact from having a lot of people there, and it makes it sort of then the flagship that, okay, everybody else is there, I should probably be there as well, right? It's that knock-on effect with it. But in terms of like the mission is essentially just to drive positive change in the legal world. We want to be a catalyst. I think my LinkedIn slogan is the number one catalyst, or building the number one catalyst for innovation in legal, with a goal of driving positive change. And if you look at innovation and the change, the positive knock-on effects that it can have in other industries, right? Let's say in retail now, there's some old people that couldn't get groceries, and now they can get food delivered same day. And people couldn't send money to loved ones that lived in different countries before. Now you can. Like, now you can get taxis immediately if you need to get from A to B. Like, you can watch movies quicker, even though some people get a bit nostalgic about going into Blockbuster. Like, but generally speaking, like innovation improves people's lives. I think it's very rare that it has the opposite effect. Innovation improves people's lives. It can be scary. Change can be scary. But really, like, the farmers back in the day were a bit worried when tractors came. Oh, but now there's new jobs, and tractors are making farmers' lives easier. And there's people now servicing the tractor and the oil and the tires and whatever it is. So like the world changes. So I think in general, generally speaking, innovation is good. And I think that, access to justice is a big topic. I think typically speaking, people haven't had the best mental health or well-being. They've worked in law firms and they're working 24-hour days, 7 days a week. That's not healthy. Sure, you get paid good money, but is that the best way to live? Sorry for anyone that loves it. But I think, the world will change, and I think we can be better for it. And we want to be part of that journey.
So let's review the impact in the numbers, or just like generally, like, so this event happened a month ago. What was that like? How many people showed up? What kind of companies were there? What are a couple of like standout things that stuck in your mind about the event?
Yeah, we had about 4,000, just under 4,100 people through the doors, which was on target for what we wanted. It was about 2,500 people in the first year. So good numbers. I think it's up there with the sort of big events in America now in terms of scale, and we're just getting going, and it's going to grow some more next year, which is great. And it's not just the numbers. Like if you look at who was there, we had the global managing partners of Linklaters, the former global managing partner of Clifford Chance. We had the managing partner at Cleary. There's a great number of managing partners for some big and medium law firms. We had group GCs and chief legal officers of Dentsu and Revolut and HSBC, some big banks, like very senior people for us from big corporates and big law firms. And we had the founders of Harvey there, of Legora, all the tech companies, the CEO of Microsoft UK on stage.
Wow.
It was insane. A baby event. I still see this as a baby event, and others are like, wow, it's just like your 10th event. Like, it's like, no, we just come out of nowhere. I forgot your question now. You're just asking about the numbers.
Well, just generally about the impact, and if there were a couple of things that stood out to you from the event that were big takeaways.
You touched on this prior to the conversation when you mentioned the poet. Like, there's obviously loads of talk about AI, and everything is coming back into some shape or form about AI. And there's a lot of talk about is the business model going to change? Is pricing going to change? And but we had a few sessions which is more about the people, and I think it all comes back to the human element. Like, what are we doing this for? What is the purpose? Like, why are we innovating? What is why? I think this is the big question, and it's about the people. It's about the people who are working in the industry. It's about the people who the industry serves, and that's what we're doing it for. And I think that was the overwhelming feeling at the end of the event. Right? It's power to the people. Like, and there was a great feeling in the room, and we constructed the agenda in that way and opened the event in that way, and like this can be a good thing, guys. We don't need to be scared.
That's wonderful. And you had also talked earlier about the importance not just of numbers, but of story. So based upon the success of the event, I know that a lot of it comes down to the story, the impact, the narrative. And I'm just wondering, from your perspective, you had mentioned earlier about the power of story. What is the power of story for you?
It's been really important for us when communicating with an industry that doesn't know who we are. We don't know who they are, by the way. Everyone I spoke to was for the first time not long ago in the industry, and for us, it was painting a story about the big picture, about what we want to achieve. Like, it's so easy to come in. Oh, this is going to be the biggest event. You're going to need to be there, and it's like we communicated early on what we're trying to do, and the positive change we can have, and on the industry. And some people bought into that, and eventually more and more people were buying into that. And I think we can't do what we're going to do if we don't sort of tell the story as to why. Like, what are we doing this for? And people buy into stories. It's and people like to work with people that have a story. I think it's really important.
Well, I think it's a wonderful one, and I think that you are having a positive impact on the industry. And clearly, from all the people that you're getting in the room, those are the critical people that you want to get in the room to have an understanding of that positive vision of how things can be. So kudos to you for doing that.
Thank you.
So let me go to, there's a couple of questions I like to ask all my guests at the end, which we're coming up on, is just the first one is, clearly, Bradley, you've got a lot going on. You putting this event together, and you mentioned before we started, 11 months to go, already behind. Like, there's a lot of stuff to do. So with all of these things going on, like, how do you keep it balanced? Is that a false assumption, like that there is a work-life balance? Like, how do you do it?
Yeah, the months leading up to the event, or weeks leading up to it, there definitely wasn't a work-life balance. That was just go, 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 go. I mean, the whole team now taking some mini breaks over the summer, but I'm already feeling like oof, the event's coming up quite soon, right? And we want to do more stuff outside of the event as well. Like we want to remain focused on the event, but yeah, how do I keep it balanced? I just think like when you enjoy what you're doing, it doesn't feel like you're working. A lot of the things that we've been doing is like it's new to me, like leading people and building company and working with my co-founder. Everything we did was from scratch, the legal documents and HR, all of this. But when you're really enjoying it and you're getting satisfaction from it, it doesn't feel like you're working. To be honest, I think it gives energy opposed to taking energy away. But it is important, like stay healthy, go to the gym, play tennis,
Yeah.
use the sauna from time to time if you can. I'm taking some mini holidays here. I'll be in America, I think next week for IltraCon or week after. So see you out there if you manage to get some time to go. I'll be taking a few days before or after to have a little mini break, but yeah, give it a month or two, and it's going to be go 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 again fully for. But we have a nice team in place now, a bigger team, so it's more about sort of overseeing things and delegating well and trusting the team as well is important.
Yeah, it's great to have a team. So the last question, it really goes to all of this. Like at the end of the day, when you're doing all of this stuff, especially after like the run up to the event and it's being so crazy and then finally getting it done. And I know what that's like where you almost have like an adrenaline drop of like, oh my God, it's done. And then, you just kind of go down for a minute or two. But what is it for you? Like at the end of the day, what makes it worthwhile?
I mean, coming from a sales background, we've always enjoyed making money, and we get a lot of loyal sponsors that are backing us and continue to back us. But I think actually it's a lot more than that. The business is doing well, like fortunately, but I think it's the satisfaction of what we're doing. Like the amount of people that have wrote to me since the event yesterday or today, even my colleague Joe was on a call with Tyson from Stellar Legal. He seems to be an industry legend. Everyone seems to know who he is. And he said, like, the amount of clients I've got already out of this event, the amount of partnerships we've got. And we had volunteers that have got jobs from people they met at the event. Yeah, there's just so much good that's already coming. And the positivity we're getting from those people involved, it's a nice feeling. It sounds a bit cliche, but when you have a positive impact on other people's lives, like these founders here, some of them in like a 6-month-old startup, now have met an investor who's just backed them and is changing their life. That's really cool. That beats the sort of business side of it. It's like, sorry, we're doing something good here. We're having a good impact, and if you can do that and run a good business, I think that's very satisfying.
Well, thank you so much for doing what you're doing. I'm so happy that you're having a positive impact, which I see myself, and the fact that you took a chance on the legal industry and coming into it, I truly appreciate it.
I hope we can convince you to fly out to London next year, Tom.
Well, I'll actually be out there in November, maybe in July.
Okay. So we're in June. So let's see if we can make a diary work.
All right, June. Oops.
Yeah.
Well, look, so everyone can learn more about LegalTechTalk, keep in touch with you, and maybe if they're lucky, buy some early bird tickets for next year. How can they keep in touch?
Yes, LinkedIn's probably the easiest way. It's Bradley Collins on LinkedIn. Happy to chat with anyone. And yeah, Tom, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Very much enjoyed the conversation. Either see you in America soon or give me a shout in November when you're in town.
It's been a real pleasure, Bradley. I do hope to look you up and maybe hang out a little.
Sounds good. Cool. Good stuff.
And thank you all so much for watching. See you next time. Thank you so much for watching the latest episode of the LawDroid Manifesto podcast. To keep in the loop about upcoming episodes, please subscribe to LawDroid Manifesto and you'll get notified. Thanks for watching. See you next time.